Thank you everyone for checking out this video. Keeping my promise of what I put in a post just a couple weeks ago, and I'm basically making it so that I'm doing a video on my on the scripts that I do within that I work on in Terraform. And I'm doing all the scripts, just doing this particular one that I've been working on for the past, I want to say, couple of days. Got scared yesterday. I just rested all day yesterday, because because for those that know me, Saturdays normally is a religious day for me and my family, so I just take that off and just spend the time with them and just try to unwind. Cause I'm on a computer all day every day, so I need this extra time to unwind. Really need that extra time to unwind to get away from things. But in short, this script is almost it's actually better than the ones that I have on a little bit better than the ones I have on GitHub right now. Because this script does a little bit more. Um, because of the fact that the ones that's already on GitHub right now, which if you already seen them, if you haven't seen them, go ahead and just look at the link below. This script will not be posted on it for probably for the next couple of days. I need to work on a few kinks on it. But yeah, um, the other ones, they pretty much only deploy one EC2 instance at a time, whereas the newer ones, whereas this script will deploy multiple EC2 instances at a time. And not only that, it will create a data volume for them as well, and it will also attach that volume to them. Let's go ahead and show you a quick demonstration of how this script runs. Let's go ahead and do a Terraform. First, let me go ahead and validate. I did make some changes earlier. Hopefully those didn't stick. Well, it looked like they didn't because I don't see no bubble next to any of my stuff. But just to go ahead and just run a validate real quick, just go ahead and validate to make sure my script is running correctly, that the code is running right. All right, so yes, it's running correctly. And don't worry about this little warning here. This warning is basically telling me that the arguments that I'm using is deprecated, because what I'm doing is I'm basically using the credentials path. What I'm doing is, instead of just hard coding uh, my access key and secret key into Terraform, what I'm doing is I'm have all my credentials stored in a particular path on this Linux machine that I'm working on locally. So I just have Terraform look at that particular directory and just, you know, and just grab the credentials from there. All right. So, but other than that, the code is working fine. So let's go ahead and just go ahead and do a plan real quick. If I could type. And the plan is going to take a little. It's going to take a bit long to run. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it don't. I guess sometimes it depends on how Terraform feels. Um, but in the meantime, while it's doing that, the reason why I said it's going to be deploying multiple instances, because the one thing that the other scripts had that this one didn't. Oh, it finished pretty fast. So what it's doing is it's got this variable here called EC2 count, and what it's doing is it's basically checking how many instances you wish to deploy. How many instances do you want Terraform to deploy at a time? So what we'll do here, now that this ran, we're gonna look at it. And so right now by default it's seen as 2. It sees 2. So let's go up here and check. We go and look at the, let me pull this up here so I get more reading space. So if we scroll all the way to the top here, we see a few things. We'll see that there's a route table being created. There's EBS volume 1. There's 0. That's going to be going on the first instance. That's going to be deployed in availability zone A. This was going to be deployed in availability zone B, which is another data volume. And then you have the EC2. You have EC20, which is also being deployed into availability zone 2A. And then we have the next EC2, EC21, which is going to be in availability zone B, and basically it's going to use this user data and things like that. Now, user data is just basically a small little script that basically tells it to install Apache. Um, It's just for testing purposes because in the future I'm gonna be using this script to have Ansible log in and do some system configurations and things like that. Have Ansible manage everything regarding installations and things like that because I rather use a package management utility for doing that rather than using a user data script. Um, but let's just go ahead and apply this script because it's telling us we can apply it. And right now what I do, I have it so the script, once it finishes applying this, once it finishes applying and making and creating all the resources and everything, it's going to go ahead and it's going to output the IP addresses to us for the EC2 instances. So right now, as I said, we did apply. It didn't do anything as of yet because it just ran the plan. You see right here where it tells you it just ran a plan. It's saying it got a plan of 18 resources that's going to be added. So if I go ahead and hit yes, it will go ahead and start deploying the EC2 instances and all the resources that it needs. So we're going to go ahead and hit yes. And you're going to see a lot of cool stuff like one up here where it's telling us creating these the private keys and everything of the sorts. And it's going to go ahead and just start um, running the script and basically creating all the resources. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video for right now, and I will come right back once this, and I'll unpause it once it finishes. All right, so I'm back. It didn't take that long for it to deploy, but it finally finished. It went ahead and applied and created all 18 resources that it needed. So the 18 resource that it was creating, it created a VPC, it created a net gateway, an internet gateway, it created a route table, it created the subnets for the VPCs and attached them to the route table. It created the EBS volume for the EC2, the data volume, and attached them to the EC2 instances. And right now, what I gotta do, I gotta wait a little bit um, for the EC2s to run the user data script because the user data script it takes a while to run, which is why, and it's hard to tell if the EC2s are ready yet because the EC2s because you don't know when the user data script is going to finish. This is why I love using Ansible because when you run Ansible, when Terraform finishes deploying the Ansible script, you already know that the EC2 is ready to go. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my AWS platform. I will I'm going to pause it and be right back after these messages. All right, so we're inside of our AWS account, the dev account. And what we're going to do, we're going to first check the VPCs to make sure that it's there. So go ahead and check our networking. Like I said, it deployed a virtual private cloud, which is a VPC. And we see that it did create our Terraform VPC right here. We're going to check that it made sure it created our um our subnets, our subnets, which it did, but gave them the wrong name. So that's something I have to fix. Gave them the wrong name. All right, so that's unfortunate. All right, so at least we know it created our subnets here. Now we're going to check it created our route tables, which it did. Our public route table. It created it did create our internet gateway, which is right here. And it created also security groups as well, which is the security groups are right here. The remote security group, which just has port 22 open, and have our web security group, which has just port 80 open at the moment. All right, so now let's go ahead and check our EC2s. With that little bit of explanation, the EC2s should have finished configuring by now. So we're gonna go ahead and go to our running EC2s. Right now it has 4 in it. but those are ones that has been terminated, and we see that our EC2s are ready to go. So all we got to do is just go ahead and we're going to check a couple of things because this is web 1. Web 1, we want to make sure that for one it's on the zero network. It's on the zero network because of how we set up our script. This should be on the zero network because it's web 0. And check our security groups. Our security groups are properly set up, and this should be in availability zone A. Let's go ahead and go down here. Yes, it's in availability zone A, so we're good to go. So now we want to go ahead and check to make sure that our website is up and running. Go to it. We get rid of this S here because the S is bad. And yes, we got our website right here. So we see that we got the website saying hello world. This is the internal host name of the instance, and yes, it's showing us it's on the zero network. So let's go to our web 1, which is our pretty much our second web server. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at it. We see that yes, it's on the 1 network. That's what it should be on. And we see that, go to our security groups, we see that our security groups are attached. And then we see that, go to our networking, this one should be in availability zone B. And we scroll down, and yes, indeed, it's in availability zone B. And one thing we didn't check from our first EC2, we didn't check our storage. And our storage is there, and we do see that we have our data volume right here that's used for, storing data and things like that. And then let's go back to our web 1 and check that as well. And yes, it is there. So let's go back to our web 1, and we go ahead and we're going to check our website out and get rid of that S. And there you go. It shows, it says hello world. This gives the internal host name of the instance and basically shows that it's up and running. Now, what type of use case can this type of script be used for? Just a quick explanation. It can be used for, let's say, if you want to deploy an environment with EC2 instances that are in an HA pair. I know a lot of people could say, okay, we could use auto scaling groups, but a lot of people, for some reason, they don't want to use it, which I know that some MSPs don't, which I'm not sure why. But I know some people rather just use EC2s and that's it. But this is one script that can be used for that, but um, but this is just, like I said, this is just one scenario this being used for. It could be numerous scenarios as to how this script could be used. But in the meantime, I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to start up the next one, going over the script and what's being done within it. All right, I will see you in that video. All right.